If you actually want to sell books and make money from your books, you need to write books that people want to read, and you need to package your books in a way that people want to read them. If you don't know me, I am Kate, and I've helped over 3,000 authors sell more books, make more money, all online. So what do I mean by writing a book people want to read? Well, this means doing things that are conventional for the genre. For example, if you're writing romance books, make sure it ends with a happily ever after. You can write romantic literary books or romantic women's fiction that doesn't end in a happily ever after, but don't put it in the romance category. Don't write a mystery without telling us who did it at the end, without helping us figure out who did the damn thing. Imagine that you go into a restaurant and it is labeled the best burgers in St. Louis. So you walk into this restaurant and you're like prepared for the best burgers in St. Louis, right? You go in, you sit down, you order, and you say, I want the best burger in St. Louis. And the server says, yep, that's what we're here for. That's what we come up with. That is what we make. And then you are prepared for that burger. You're so excited for this juicy, juicy cheeseburger. And when the server brings out your food, they bring you a salad. Not even a normal salad. One of those like white people mayonnaise salad things that people bring to cookouts that are actually really awful and aren't really a salad. That's what they bring you. And you say, wait, I ordered a cheeseburger. And they're like, well, this is just how we do cheeseburgers. We don't do cheeseburgers the normal way. We don't do it how you would expect. We do it our way. We do it different. And you're like, well, it's not a fucking cheeseburger then, right? You need to package your book in a way that is expected and that lets readers know what they're getting into. And that also includes when you are selling your book, when you're talking about it, when you're doing your TikToks about your book. You want to make sure that you're packaging it and showing it off as something that your readers will get what they expect when they read the book. Otherwise, you're going to get a bunch of one-star reviews because you're posting all of this content about this super, super dark, super spicy paranormal romance, but then when people read it, they're like, well, one, they both die at the end, not even together, it's a very tragic ending, but two, it's otherwise not really a dark book. Like, the guy is super nice all the time, there's not a lot of drama, they just kind of die randomly, and it doesn't make a lot of sense, and people are going to be mad when you do that. People are going to be so angry when you give them something they're not expecting, especially with books. And you might be thinking, well, no, it's my art. It's just like an artistic interpretation. I'm the artist. I can interpret it however I want. Then put it in the right genre. Put it in the right category so that you can actually sell it. Stop blaming the fact that the book isn't selling on the readers of a respected and long-held genre with respected and long-held genre expectations. Stop blaming your lack of sales on them and blame it on the fact that you purposely put a book that doesn't fit that category into that category. And now nobody wants to read it because they feel lied to. They feel bamboozled. You also need to make sure that your cover fits the expectations and that your marketing aesthetic fits the expectations. For example, my marketing for my normal billionaire marriage of convenience romance is going to have a much different vibe than my dragon shifter paranormal reverse harem romance where she has 5 boyfriends and there's a lot of drama and death and destruction. These are going to have very different vibes, so I'm going to market them differently. Even if I'm using the same TikTok account to market both books, I'm going to pull different scripts. I'm going to pull different things. I'm going to focus heavier on the angst and the paranormal aspects and also the weird aspects of a girl dealing with the fact that she has 5 boyfriends or husbands or whatever she considers them throughout the series. These are going to be far different dynamics than one that someone would have in a billionaire marriage of convenience. The drama is going to be different, and therefore I'm going to make sure that I'm marketing for that. And when I'm picking my keywords, I'm going to make sure my keywords match the things within that book, that I'm not marketing that super light, fluffy romance as something darker and disturbing and, the mafia or whatever. Even though the girl is told in the book that her mom was killed by the mafia, spoiler alert, in the end it's not true, and there's no mafia actually involved in the book. However, there are billionaires and there are fancy flights to fanciful places. There's all sorts of stuff that I can lean on in my tropes that don't lean on these other things that just happen to be popular. If my main character takes her to a hockey game, I'm not going to use that hockey game in order to market the entire damn book because it's not a hockey romance. And people who see it and see hockey mentioned and they are really into, sports romance and especially the hockey subgenre, they will be really disappointed if they read the book and they're like, oh yeah, this was marketed as a hockey romance. Like, all of her content was about the fact that they're at a hockey game. I don't understand why this isn't about that at all. You also want to make sure, if you're not writing romance, that you don't just lean into the romantic aspects of it for all of your marketing. I had one client that I pulled her scripts for her TikTok, and the book had a little bit of romantic aspects to it. It was overall about a man who had created a self-aware AI copy of himself that was then put into a computer and could shift over into a robotic body. And this is what the book was about, although there was also some strife with his wife and the fact that he was kind of neglecting their relationship, neglecting their marriage. There was all of that, but that's not what the book was about. So if I had leaned heavily on the strife in their marriage for pulling the scripts, then people wouldn't get a good idea of what the book is about. They would assume that a lot of the book is about her. They would assume that a lot of it is in her perspective, and maybe she has a rebound, or maybe there's this other stuff going on. But no, you don't want to do that, because just because these things are popular doesn't mean that's how you market your book. If you're ready to go ahead and learn how to market your book and how I sell books and how I've helped 3,000 authors sell hundreds and thousands of copies of their books and how I've sold over 100,000 copies of my own, make sure to check out the link in the description where you can get my course bundle. It's usually like $600, but if you get the bundle, it is almost half off. And I'm not sure how much longer we're going to have it at that price, so make sure to check it out. Another example of not marketing a book well might be if I were to talk about this book that I wrote and compare it to like Seabiscuit, or books where they're doing like a lot of English writing, or The Horsewoman by James Patterson. That might be the type of book that I would think about comparing this to. But again, it's such a vastly different book. I want to comp it to other cowboy romances. And in fact, I don't just want to comp it to cowboy romances. I want to comp it to cowboy romances where they're actually out competing in different sports. For example, I might comp it to Flawless by Elsie Silver, even though that's not about a horseman. The cowboy in this book is a horseman. He rides horses, that's the sport he competes in, and the main character in Flawless is a bull rider, but they're still competing at large-scale events in a very high-pressure situation in a sport that is fairly dangerous. People get injured in the sport of reining all the time, so this is an example of like the type of comp I want to use. I don't want to comp this to a hockey romance either, because cowboys are very different from hockey players. Even if they have some similar personality traits, we're going to have different comparisons, and we're going to get people in a different mindset when we compare them. Something else is I might point out that it's not just the guy who rides in this book, it's also the girl, because she's the one who gets injured at the beginning of the book. She gets injured competing in this sport at a higher level than she's ever competed before. I'm just going to hold up the art to talk about it now, because I do the art for myself for all of my books, and I like the horse on the art a lot, mostly because she's based off of my real life horse. So I would rather compare this to something where they are competing in a sport, but a singular sport, and especially a cowboy related or adjacent sport. People who aren't into cowboy romance might not care that she wears his hat into the finals, and people who aren't into cowboy romance might not care about all of the horse details that I put in, because I actually ride horses. The horse is based off of my real life horse. And honestly, some people are attracted to cowboys and they're not attracted to football players or hockey players or whatever. They're more attracted to cowboys because they have this perception that they work harder, that their hands are more calloused, that they are more powerful in some way or another. So I'm not going to comp it to these other books. Comp means compare, by the way. I don't know if I ever mentioned that. So if your book isn't selling, it might not just be that you're posting, graphics and saying that that is your selling point. You might be posting perfectly good scenes about the book and then getting bad reviews. So you have to make sure that you're packaging your books correctly in order to sell. If you want to learn how to do this right and how to pull your scripts and sell a crap ton of books, make sure to check out the link in the description.